Make yourselves comfortable. So tonight, I love to tell people what yoga is. Harmony of body, mind, and inner self. Unity of your being so you access your higher potential. But you know all that, right? And how many are finding more of this inner potential we talk about in their lives? Oh, bravo to you. Well, you tell me about it. You don't want to, huh? Okay. You ready to climb a few tall mountains? One of the biggest concerns in yoga is also one of the biggest concerns in life. It's just yogis want to face it, and a lot of us don't dare unless we've got some means of approach. But heavy-duty question. What is reality? What is reality? Because again and again, we're basing our life, the way we make our choices, the way we study, the way we make our effort in life, we're assuming there are certain realities. Again and again, people find, gee, the stock market crashed, it wasn't supposed to, and so again and again, oh, I thought you loved me. You mean we've been doing this for so many years and you never really cared for me? I thought the reality was we cared for one another. Or, you've changed. The one I married isn't the same one I got. What happened to them? The reality I was expecting is you're going to be that way. That's why I married you, and you're not that way. There are just all these expectations we have of life. We have a sense of what is real and what's supposed to be real. And our happiness hangs in the balance. If we're going to be happy, we better be fairly accurate on what we put all our energy and effort into. I wrote a play about Frederick Wilhelm, the father of Frederick the Great. Well, the story is about Frederick, but his dad wants to believe that the tobacco parliament, which is a bunch of wise men of the country that sit and smoke tobacco and talk about things, he wanted to believe that they were his closest friends and they couldn't possibly be in the pay of Austria as spies. He just couldn't take it when he found out Grumkopf and others were, yes, they were his closest friends, yes, they were in the tobacco parliament, yes, they smoked with him every day, but yes, they were trying to direct him in such manner as to please the emperor in Austria. So he had based his life on these being his best friends, most trusted allies for Brandenburg and Prussia, that he couldn't accept it, even though he knew Grumkopf was in Austria's pay and a spy. Rather than accept that, he would rather believe Grumkopf was truly his friend and truly not a spy, and he just had his heart broken, and just very likely that was the beginning of the deterioration of his health that killed him when he found Grumkopf. I just can't accept. I can't believe. My whole system is based on believing in you and your friendship, and so his heart broke and died. It's hard to believe. He based his life on the reality that these men were with him trying to forge a great new nation that would not always be under the thumb of Austria and the emperor there, the Habsburgs. And it turns out they were all hirelings. It's very important what we think is real in life, because we tend to put our energy, our resources, our tender feelings, our care, our concern, and maybe years and years and years of hard work into what we think is real. So it's important to consider them, since our happiness hangs in the balance. Consider for ourselves as a personal question, not a vague philosophical one, a personal question. What do I think is real? Or what realities am I presuming and basing my life on? What is real? So the modern day physicist said, I can tell you what's real. See? Electron microscope. Everything's made out of energy. If you're going to talk about life, you better talk about energy. Because everything that exists, our thoughts, our feelings, our food, our movement, all based on energy. Our physical being is built out of energy. And the ancient yogi says, very good. I saw that too. In blissful meditation under my tree, I looked out one day with calm eyes. My third eye was open, my spiritual eye, or I felt like I was viewing the world through here. And I began to see everything is made out of essence, or spirit, or consciousness, or energy. Very good. And so the ancient yogi, under his tree, gazing out and seeing energy everywhere, agreed with the modern day physicists that we're going to talk about reality. We better talk about energy. We better have that one of the main things in our thought. But the ancient yogi said, well, don't you notice another nice thing about this energy? It knows what it's doing. It's consciously combining and creating all these forms that we call trees and animals and green grass and clouds and people. Don't you notice this energy is consciously combining in various ways? And the modern day physicist says, well, I can't say for sure that it's all conscious. Maybe it's a random meeting of electrons, which are little bits of energy that are focalized. Maybe it's not all that conscious. So the ancient yogi says, when I meditate, I can tune in with this energy that's inside me and around everywhere. I can see this energy, and I can also see it's consciously doing something beautiful. It's doing a universe. It's expressing this magnificent play of energy. And the modern day physicist says, maybe, maybe not. We can't say for sure that it's conscious. One of the main reasons a yogi meditates is to sense the reality, the life, the consciousness playing within. And to be able also, in loving others, to recognize that energy and consciousness in other people. Life gets so rich when you can see the consciousness, the energy, the life moving in other people, moving through them. So, yogis have come to the conclusion over the many centuries, over 5,000 years and more, health is a play of energy. Psychological health is when the energy moves easily through the mind, not blocked, held back. There's this marvelous play of energy in mental health, physical health. There's this marvelous play of energy in prosperity. Got to get the energy within your being and within the universe moving in a harmonious way so that it's free to flow. Prosperity is a flow of energy. Love is a flow of energy. A relationship, beautiful, compatible flows of energy. One of our students years ago heard this class, went back to his place. It was a hospital. He was in the psychological wing of the hospital, and he began to think, what's tying up the energy of these people? What can I do to sense the tie-ups and help free them? And he had remarkable success in just trying to think of mental health as a beautiful play of energy that is not so blocked or conflicted. So it's a fascinating field. Just think about life as energy. Think about yourself, not just a lump of meat, but energy or consciousness moving on through. The Greeks and the Romans said a person, the word person, P-E-R-S-O-N. You're defined as a person. You know what that means? To sound through. The whole concept found in the word person is that as a being, which you are, consciousness is sounding or coming through you. That was our idea of the word person. To sound through. Consciousness coming through you. Fascinating idea. Anyway, there's a richer life immediately when you begin to sense energy and life force, consciousness moving through you in your words, your thoughts, actions, hopes and dreams, your faith, loving heart, your kindness, passion, and also notice that all kinds of negative moods like, sorrow, depression, very often they really block our energy and make us feel less and less alive unless we do our grieving in a healthy way or deal with our sorrows in a way that's going to renew and rebirth us to some extent. So, what is reality? Not just a big question. You've been living your life based on what you think is real. Very important to consider, based on how far you've traveled, what at this point in your life you have found to be real and worth your time and cause for more energy and effort. What is real to you? But do consider in that equation, energy, the play of life, the play of consciousness, is a movement. Consider that. And yogis get a chance when they meditate to sense energy playing within them, within others, and they also get a chance to discover what this energy is doing. What What is the meaning of all this energy play? What's it about? So that's very often what you'll find a yogi doing, striving to have a deeper sense of reality through meditation, and striving to be a greater person through allowing more to sound through oneself. More love, light, awareness, joy, intelligence. Come on through. But what do most people do? They get blocked right away. Because they say, I've got senses, I got eyes, I got ears, I can tell you what reality is. And most people do live their lives based on what the senses say. And that would be great if the senses were really reliable. But the senses tend to again and again misrepresent things. I recall when I was a kid, I saw Romeo and Juliet. The Shakespeare troupe came through town. It was so exciting. I was playing drums at the time, so all of the cast came in, wanted to play drums with me, and they were fascinating people. They invited me if I'd come and help pack the whole thing back on the bus, that I could see the play for free. So I go, and oh, Juliet, oh, what a beautiful creature, just like she descended from heaven for this performance. Magnificent voice, utterly beautiful and radiant, and the stage was just full of mists, and they just made that stage live. It was just, all glowing or all full of shadows and somber and menacing. It just was an incredible job. So I really learned a lot that night because I helped to pack the stage. And when you go up there, all that mist was dirty cheesecloth with light on it. And it looked so great. But it wasn't mist at all, it was cheesecloth. Dirty, really ripped up, torn up. 100 miles or 100 shows. 100,000 miles perhaps that cheesecloth had traveled. Okay, and then, of course, all those marvelous big bricks and stones and all the castle wall and all the different rooms. The most simple kind of painting on boards. Or bits of sacks, burlap sacks, and just piled, That was amazing. But as a result of that, I realized, boy, they can really, the magic of the theater is it isn't this way at all, but they can make it appear a castle and really marvelous, and they can make day and night and everything with such utter ease because of their craft. But the real hoot was Juliet. Because they invited me to go to the cafe with them and have a bite. And I think they felt that she was lonely for company or something, because they decided I was going to be with her. So I got to sit right beside Juliet, and we got to talk and everything, but this radiant, eloquent, magical being, shy, covered with pimples, just suffering a lot, just having a really rough time of it, and I thought, how magnificent the theater is. What appearances it can put on that just thrill us and delight us and make our hearts reach for the stars. Amazing. But appearances, again and again, our senses tell us what's real, and they're wrong. They can be appealed to. They can be suckered. Again and again, we buy things we don't want very often because of the appealing presentation or the marvelous marketing with all these experts about people and psychology. Like they say, what should a new car smell like? You tell us. And then they adjust a fragrance that will smell like we expect a new car to smell, and they spray the car with it so it'll smell like we expect it to smell. What should a new car feel like? Well, when you close the door, we don't know anything about engines. Make the door close with a nice click, a nice strength, and we'll assume the motor's well built too. And there are just so many cute ways of making us buy through our senses. So I just like to tiptoe through some of the senses because, again and again, yogis want to have the best possible use of their eyes and ears. They want to be able to really sense well, but to believe your senses are telling you what's real is very dangerous, especially when it comes to choosing people. Again and again, appearances are deceiving. People's hearts are broken. So, eyes are fascinating. There's so many interesting experiments because the eye can be fooled. But the best way is to just think of the movie. You're sitting there in a theater, your feet lodged in old Pepsi-Cola, and it's kind of tricky to move your feet after a while, but people are getting better. Anyway, you sit there, and they put a picture up. It's retained by a flaw called retinal retention, and then they get another one up there, and we get a feeling of continuous movement, and the stagecoach is going off the cliff, or people are falling down dead, or some people who are watching a movie, they get nauseated or have heart attacks, or they have to go to the hospital because it's so real to them. And they're sitting there in a seat, and people are shining light on a screen way over there. This can happen in your home. They're showing the movie in a distant place, sending it on electron beams, various microwave things. There it is on your TV set, which is like Zorro going really fast to get the picture on there, fast enough for you to think it's a reality. Just a fascinating thing, this whole business. Our eyes are not able to determine reality. They're just there to show us the visible spectrum, little part of the energy of the universe, visible spectrum. It's fascinating what happened with IBM. They did an experiment once. You stand at the end of this corridor, and they say, okay, tell me what you're seeing. And you look down the corridor, and you say, okay, there are two globes. Oh yeah, and now the globe on the left is moving forward about 6 feet, and the globe on the right is receding about 6 feet. They say, okay, good. Come on down. Tell us what you see now. Oh, no. It's two balloons, and you inflated one and deflated the other, didn't you? Oh, gee. But the beauty of this experiment, even seeing what happened, is people are asked to look at it again. And they're shown the thing, and they know what's happening. They say, I'm sorry. I'm just so used to when it gets big like that, I think it's coming toward me, many feet. And when it gets small, it's receding. I'm sorry, but I still believe. It was very interesting. And if you go to various wonderful museums and university places, they've got all kinds of fascinating chairs. They look like chairs, and you look up close, and they're not chairs at all. Or you look at the drawings on the wall or various other configurations. The eyes are fooled so easily and so often. Just amazing. So to rely on the eyes to tell you what's reality is, yogis say, a big mistake. It's important to have great eyes, use them well, but don't rely on your perceptions to determine how you're going to live your life, where you're going to put your energy. Again and again, you'll be disappointed. Things will fall apart. Eyes, there are just so many good eye things. Like in Hollywood, what do you do for a mob scene? Like all the peasants are storming the palace. Marie Antoinette's in there, and she said something insulting, So how do you get a mob to storm the palace if you don't want to spend $500,000 or a few million on it? You just get little tiny hats and you put them on top of corks. And you put little toothpicks with little flags on them, little pennants, So you get these little corks, these little helmets on these corks, and you have them in this water. So you look down with the camera, oh wow, all these heads and hats and banners, and you just hit the water and all of them corks bob, and people go, wow, it looks very good from here. The mob is really seething. It's a seething mob. Marie's in danger here. And so it goes. It's just fascinating. It's just fascinating how easily the eyes are fooled. Right? I hope you can recount some stories about that, because generally when you go shopping, that's what they're trying to do, fool your eyes, usually. There's a whole science to making you buy things. The items that are high profit, way down there, far away from the madding crowd. The things you weren't thinking of buying, put them right in front of you, so that when you're buying something you want to buy, they're down there, and you look at this thing right ahead of you. You never thought of wanting kumquats for a long time. There they are. I haven't had kumquats for years. What have I been? Wow, I better buy them. They got some kumquats here, or whatever it might be. Anyway. So it goes. The blink rate when you shop, average blink rate, oh gee. Is it 8 or 9 a minute? People go along in life, you go blink, blink. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the exact number. It's something like 8 or 9 blinks a minute. to keep our eyes moist. As you get hypnotized, you go to way down to about 3 blinks a minute. So what happens is, when people are shopping, they go down, they come in with, let's say, 8 or 10 blinks a minute, and they get in their car. Okay, their blink rate goes down to 3 a minute. They're shopping. Paradise. Okay. And then when they approach the cash register, it goes up to 18, 21. What have I done? What have I done? You've done the regular things that everybody programmed you to do. Have fun, come back next week. Fascinating. Anyway, eyes. The yogi says, I want my eyes to be happy and show me the best, but I want to also put a lot of higher awareness into this whole process of what I'm going to do with these perceptions. And may I see more and more accurately and more clearly. May I really see? Well, ears. Fascinating. You think, maybe I don't see it right, but I can really hear accurately. But sound effects, a whole bunch of interesting ways to make things sound like we expect them to sound. Again and again, the way we hear things. We hear what we want to hear. Like when I was a little kid, I was mad at Sharon because, I forget. Maybe it was the way she poured water all over my head when I went to school one day. I forget exactly what the cause was. But she owed us something like 6 cents. So what happened is, Sharon, we're not going to play with you again unless you give us that 6 cents you owe us. And so Sharon goes, back home. Talks to her mom. Mom comes out. What's this about? You're not going to play with her unless we give you 6 cents? Says, she owes us 6 cents. So my sister runs into the house because that's what sisters do. And she goes to Mom and says, Mrs. Brule is saying, this about the 6 cents. So my sister comes running back, and the way I hear it is, my sister says, Mom says she'll give you the 6 cents. So the way I hear it is, I say to Mrs. Brule, my mom says she'll give us the 6 cents. Thinking we mean Sharon. I think my mom's backing me up. My mom says she'll give us the 6 cents. My mom had said, behave and I'll give you the 6 cents. But I didn't hear it that way. I heard it differently. Again and again we hear strangely. Of course, this is very often the way they do it on TV to get you to buy things. They want you to hear them. Anyway, our ears are so easily deceived. It's just a magnificent thing to consider the way things sound and the way we judge them as a consequence. Disney wanted to do a marvelous cannon sound. So what do? You go record cannons. Of course, that makes sense. None of them sounded good. They don't sound like cannons. They're kind of like pop, thud, nothing like boom. You want a cannon to go boom. So they had to manufacture one without a cannon because cannons can't do the job of sounding like cannons. They found after a lot of study, why don't we drop an empty barrel into an empty swimming pool? It'll go, oh. And that was the cannons. Cute, isn't it? How we'll labor, and just go out sometime and listen to the sound effects records. They're just fascinating. Very often they're made in a lab. For example, living strings play by the ocean. Do you think there's a symphony out there with wet socks? Really? They're not out there at all. They're in the studio. But you think somebody went out there and did this to the ocean. But no, nobody even did that to the ocean because it doesn't sound very good. Usually you make the sound by pouring into a bucket full of water. You take a hose and you just get it going in really hard. And then you record that and mix that in various ways. And there is the sound of the ocean as a symphony plays by. Fascinating stuff. Ears so easily. Okay. And so it goes. You say, well, I may not see it right, I may not hear it right, but I can certainly eat it right. my taste buds are really good. But you know, you close off the nose. Like one of our students, her husband was the principal over there at Newport Harbor High, and so he began doing this experiment. It was just fascinating in his physics class. When you close this thing off, just go by taste. You can't tell the difference between, if you pulp these things, between apple, potato, or onion. Just mince it down, just make it into a pulp and try it with this closed. Fascinating. We can really be fooled in our taste buds too. And touch. Again and again, you know, people being initiated into fraternities or Halloween, you know, close these things off and you're feeling like, they say it's eyeball, but it feels great, you know. Who knows what all is going on? Because our sense of touch is quite easy to feel. And 2 points can be felt distinctly here, but there are lots of places where, like on your back, you don't feel those 2 points that well. And neurologists are fascinated by all the incredible way. One of the most fascinating things I think in terms of feeling, though, is people, especially during the Civil War, who had their arms or legs amputated. And a year or two later, they're still suffering from that leg. It hurts so. It aches. And it's not there. But their sense of touch and feeling, it's still there, and they're suffering so. So the solution was, since you feel that it's there, give it exercise. Exercise your phantom limb every day. Stretch it, bend it, just work that phantom limb, and they began to get better by working a limb that wasn't there because of the feeling sense. Gone rampant. Trying to compensate for its problem. Fascinating. So, touch has its problems. All our senses have problems. But I would just love to treat you to something tonight. There are just such amazing things out here on the market. So I'd just like you to feast all you want of this wonderful, wonderful food stuff. So I'm going to, and you can have all you want. I'm going to make a bunch of this wonderful quantity here, and over here, and over there. And if we still, I think maybe those 3 areas would be best. But if necessary, we'll do some more areas as well. So I want you to feel free to come on up, take your fill. We're observing that our nose can tell us things that just aren't so. Right? So maybe do a few cool. If you have a problem with kind of sprayed fragrances or whatever, just don't bother to come up. You know, just say, I hope they're having a nice time up there. Oh, that's so good. Oh, good stuff. Go on over. And of course, you know, we like it so that this class since 1970 has sold a lot of houses. Because I talk about this as one of the main things to help people think a house is a home. People come into a house that smells good and they think, oh, this is wonderful. And as a consequence, people have gone home to try to sell their houses. They've been trying for a year or two. They go home, they bake bread or they bake beans all day. Or one of our students came back from working for a real estate firm. She said, we really use that stuff. It's my job to spray the house, everything, so it smells good. So people say, what a nice home. Because people are so affected as people by the senses. They even spray chocolate so it'll smell more chocolatey. Again and again, food is sprayed, and they gas oranges or do other things to make them look orange. So we'll say, what a beautiful orange, because what if it's brown? There are cosmetics being applied to all kinds of things. Because most people rely on their senses for their sense of reality. And they're just motivated to do what their senses are telling them to do. Again and again and again. Okay. So a yogi says, I love my senses. I want them to be at their best, but I'm not going to rely on them in terms of reality or happiness. I've got to look deeper. And of course, you know what yogis do next in terms of this quest. A lot of people also who are tired of their senses giving them a bum steer. A lot of people say, well, I've got a mind. I can think. I can analyze, compare, contrast. And that's wonderful. Yogis say, You've got a mind, use it, enjoy it. It's a magnificent thing to have a mind. But your mind is mainly based on your experiences. And your experiences are mainly based on sense information. And if that sense is not that accurate or enlightened, how on earth can you say that your mind is giving you adequately what you need to know? The mind is based generally, its thoughts, its experiences are based on sense information, which may not be right. There are a lot of textbooks to say things were so, with authority. It's not true anymore. My favorite one is the textbook that my English teacher's dad had. And it was that the northern lights are the result of reflections of the sun or moon off of the glaciers and icebergs. That was what the northern lights were. And that was taught in school. Again and again, we're taught things in school. Who knows what we're teaching right now is going to be found to be utterly incorrect. Who knows? It's fascinating to think about, though, isn't it? Or scary, depending on your view. Again and again, by reflex, we try to make our mind give us an answer because it's the only thing we can think of doing. And very often it's wrong. We think we got a hunch or we think we understand, and again, we don't. But it's the only thing we can think of doing. Just like if somebody shoots a person, very often, and it's a surprise that you're getting shot, he would go like this. And so people who do autopsies look to see if you did like this, because we know our hand's not going to stop the bullet, but we try anyway. We hope we can stop the bullet, or whatever is invading. We just go like this. So very often it's a clue in a murder case whether your hand got shot through before you did. And that's the same thing we do with our mind. It's the only thing we can think of doing. So we think and decide something, even though it's utterly wrong. We often come to conclusions so strange, so haphazard, because it's the only thing we can think of doing. We think. So, yogis say that's very unfortunate. Yogananda, the great yogi, came over here to Boston and ultimately out here in California and lived 30 years among us regulars out here in the West. Great yogi. In fact, he used to take his turban on and off whenever he got on an elevator. He thought you had to take your hat off in the get off the elevator. So that was awfully nice of him, But he said, anybody with an honest, sincere mind will notice their mind is very limited within 24 hours. Just one day, you'll notice there are tons of things your mind doesn't know and can't do. But what we try to do is insist that it do it anyway because we can't think of any other way to go. We try to make our mind give us answers, and again, we come up short because our mind doesn't have enough of that wisdom to bring us happiness, fulfillment, wholeness. So, yogis, looking at their minds, maybe it took them a day, maybe it took them years. Yogis said, my mind can do certain things, compare, contrast, and evaluate, but it can't tell me truth, reality, or how to have happiness. It can guide me or it can make me more confused, but it's not the place I'm going to get my solutions about how to be happy and how to have a meaningful life. I got to look farther than the mind. So where did my mind come from? Where is the consciousness in back of my mind? So yogis then turn, after analyzing the mind, and just take any 24-hour period, and notice that again and again we try to make the mind do the job, and it can't. We try to make it think through or understand, and it can't. Some things it can do, great. But just try to define the limits of your own mind. An important job to do, because again and again we're going like this, but our hand can't stop a bullet. Again and again we're taking life, trying to throw our mind at it, mind can't do the job. Can't help us that much, or a lot of it. That's why I was always hanging out with the philosophy department. I wanted to find out what the truth of things was. And my philosophy professors always said, it's not our job. We ask questions, we don't answer questions. We answer questions. But I said, on your own at home at night. You've been asking questions all your life. What are the answers? What did you come to as a solution? And basically it turned out they just ask questions. They don't come to answers. They didn't come to answers. They just gave you questions and process and the search. And they would advocate the search, but not that it be fulfilled somehow. So we had some interesting dialogues, especially one fellow just said, It's not my job to tell you any answer. Not my job. I tried to get him beyond that. That was it. That was his life. He was a philosopher. What are you going to do? Okay. But there is a capacity within us to look beyond our mind. Now and then, when your mind's frustrated and you can't think of an answer, you just rest a while. Maybe you go and shower, or maybe you're sleeping and you wake up at night with the answer. Again and again, there are these clear points where we're not exercising our thought, but we're doing something else, like showering, walking, and the flash of wisdom that occurs to us is often brilliant, amazing. These intuitions are called higher consciousness. I wrote a book about higher consciousness. Higher consciousness, beyond the mind, beyond regular thoughts of past, present, and future, beyond regular focus on what the senses say and the memories say. Amazing consciousness. And yogis want to experience that higher consciousness, or it's also called super consciousness, by which we can understand more deeply the energy of the world, the energy of our thought, the essence of life, and thus have a better and better one. Again and again, allowing our thoughts to play out, using our senses well, using our thoughts well, and then going beyond, we'll come to an experience of higher consciousness. Often it's full of ecstasy and delight, and often it shows you the next step to do in your quest, or it shows you the whole thing. It shows you how to be very creative. You have an amazing quality to go beyond regular thought of having pure awareness or clear awareness, called higher consciousness or super consciousness. And that's generally why yogis meditate, to have higher consciousness about life, themselves, the world. Higher consciousness. Good. So I'd like to tell you, basically, and I'd like you to work on this week. Just think about this amazing feeling. Certainly use your senses well, and notice how many ways people try to get you to buy or do things based on what your senses say. Just notice that, because you want to reclaim your life from that. But also, notice how good your mind is at various things and where it's just dead wrong. And notice, too, if you work hard and try to understand the world or a particular problem with your senses really well, and then think a lot about it with your mind, then let your mind rest. Very likely you'll have new creative possibilities occurring to you that same day, or the next morning, or when you're in the shower, or walking, or relaxing, just it flashes on the mind. These direct perceptions, or these areas of direct awareness, are really golden. But sometimes we misunderstand them or misinterpret them, so don't believe they're always right. Just get to know them and begin to apply them in safe ways. You begin to find you have a higher consciousness that's there to help you with your life, to be much more fulfilled and much more successful. Now, how to understand this? Day-to-day problems, work them through with your mind, and then let it rest. Again and again, you'll have high intuitions about day-to-day problems. Really excited to get these wonderful insights about what do I do about today in this particular thing. Like, I'm not getting along here with my mate or my child. What should I do? Again and again, you'll find an intuition about what to do. But also, there's the musk deer aspect. This is one of the most beautiful aspects of yoga, the musk deer. Know about the musk deer? Runs around the Himalayas, happily, Tibet, say, having a good life. When suddenly, spring, and there's this incredible fragrance fills the air, and it realizes she must be around here somewhere. This is very exciting for the musk deer. So he begins running around, looking for her. He gets more and more excited, more and more delighted about the prospect of meeting this wonderful creature who has this wonderful fragrance. So what often happens every year is, in a frenzy, trying to find her, the musk deer running around on the cliffs and the crags loses his footing, falls to his death, thousands of feet down on the canyon floor. And the Tibetans smile, musk deer. And they go on down, approach the deer, come up to it. There's a little pouch on its belly. They cut it off and say, musk. Very valuable. Used in many, many perfumes. Musk. Because it turns out the deer was emitting the fragrance He was seeking, emitting what he was seeking. Yogis say, this is man, this is woman. We have bliss, ecstasy, and incredible love inside us. And so that's what we know life is supposed to be like. There's supposed to be incredible joy and ecstasy. There's supposed to be love everywhere. We know, because we can sense it inside. That's the way life's supposed to be. If we don't know, we're emitting it. So we chase all over the planet, say, please give me a little love. Please be nice. Please, let's go to the cabin and have some peace. You know, again and again, we chase all over the planet looking for something that we know must be because we sense it's there. And we don't recognize it's inside us. We're meant to be not beggars for love, but givers of a rich abundance and of bliss and ecstasy, all there. So that's another reason to work with your higher consciousness, to stop the idea that somehow somebody or something out there is going to bring us what we seek. We need to know that pouch of bliss and love and joy, ecstasy, that we're radiating from deep within our being, and that's driving us crazy until we find it. We need to know that. And that's why people practice yoga, and that's why they meditate. They want to get to know where that incredible delight and joy and love is coming from, and how to let it out. Okay? Have a wonderful week.